Hello, and welcome to this informational webinar for the FY2024 round of the Social Enterprise Capital Grant Program. Today is March 21st, 2023. My name is Juan Vega, and I'm the Assistant Secretary for Communities and Programs here at the Executive Office of Housing and Economic Development. In the next slide, we'll talk about provide the information about the overview of the we want to provide an overview of the Social Enterprise Capital Grant Program. We'll walk through some of the eligibility criteria, the key elements and dates from the RFP, highlights of the application, and we will be providing a question and answer period as time allows. We absolutely invite you to submit those questions through the Q&A function here. What we ask is if you do have questions that are specific to your organization or very specific to a project, that you please submit those via email to eohedgrants@mass.gov. So we'll get started with the overview of the Social Enterprise Capital Program. It was created to invest in employment social enterprises that contribute to economic growth in low-income communities. It's essentially for social enterprises that sell goods and services while providing supportive services to individuals who face significant barriers to employment. These are capital grants, which we distribute on a competitive basis to nonprofits that operate the social enterprises. There's specific eligibility related to this program, which we will go over. And funding is primarily meant to support the development of eligible facilities for these social enterprises. Specifically, the grants can be used for either the acquisition of a property to be owned by the nonprofit social enterprise for the purposes of running that social enterprise, or the renovation and repair or rehabilitation of property that's already owned by the nonprofit for the social enterprise. So let's walk through a little bit about the application eligibility. In order to be able to apply to this program, the applicant must be a Massachusetts nonprofit organization in good standing. We expect to see the social enterprise has been in operations for at least 12 months prior to the application. Be the current or imminent owner of the real estate that is being that's going to be purchased or renovated. That the social enterprise is offering paid employment opportunities to low-income individuals with priority to particular populations. And then that the social enterprise is paying participants no less than the Massachusetts minimum hourly wage. Continuing with eligibility, we want to, on the next slide, we want to talk about the other eligibility requirements that applicants must meet. So we go to the next slide. Okay, so let's see, we have provided all of the, we do expect that the applicants have provided all the following services to the participants. First is outreach to the target populations, then on-the-job training and skill development. Third, we have comprehensive support services for at least 1 year. Next, we have assistance to obtain external employment. And then finally, job retention services, which include follow-up with the beneficiaries and providing support with job retention and advancement. Okay, next up, we want to kind of talk through the actual elements of the RFP. And I will just reiterate, it's important for individuals that are interested in applying to this program to review the RFP carefully for all of the requirements and expectations, and in particular for the evaluation criteria, which is ultimately how your application will be evaluated, and a determination will be made about making an investment in your program. The total funds available for the FY24 round is $2 million. The maximum request that an applicant can make is up to $1 million for a single project. We anticipate, depending on the number of applications we get, we anticipate anywhere from 2 to 8 grant awards to be made in this round. In terms of payment terms, HED will work, once awarded, HED will work with the grantee to develop the final scope, and just depending on the amount that was awarded, and all funds do get dispersed on a cost reimbursement basis. As mentioned, the use of the grant is very specific. This is a capital grant program, and therefore it has certain parameters that it must follow. And so in this case, the RFP is being put out for projects that are looking to acquire a piece of real estate, to operate a social enterprise, or to repair, rehabilitate, or renovate a property that the social enterprise already owns. And we will just note that the renovation project may include the purchase and installation of necessary industrial equipment for the project. And then finally, the grant, these will be awarded to support the projects that can be completed between July 1st of 2023 and June 30th of 2024. These are one-year grants. As far as key dates, we want to highlight the RFP was opened on the 13th of March. We're holding the information session today, March 21st. The application deadline will be April 6th at 5 p.m. And we anticipate being able to make notification of award decisions by May, and to immediately begin contracting so that projects can start operating their project or implementing their project in July of 2023. One item we wanted to highlight that is a change from the previous round is that equipment purchases as a standalone category has been removed. We will want to focus, as I mentioned before, applicants will be able to include industrial equipment that's needed for the operation of the social enterprise as part of your renovation, repair, and rehab project. So there will be a place in the application where you'll be able to delineate those things, but just standalone equipment purchases will no longer be a category in the application. And then here, I'm going to end with the review criteria. Again, very important, and these are further detailed in the RFP, but these, we wanted to, at a high level, give you the criteria that is going to be used. We're using a 110-point scale distributed as follows. The target meeting the expectations around target population, we worth 20 points. The organization's capacity and purpose, 30. The impact of the program that's being implemented is 30 points. Track record and the capacity of the organization to succeed will be 20 points. And then a bonus 10 points will be provided for answering the questions related to advancing equitable opportunities. And with that, I will now pass it to my colleague, Alexandra, to introduce herself and walk us through the application.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Alexandra Pulio. I'm the program administrator for the Social Enterprise Capital Grant Program. So yeah, let's talk some more about the application form. The application form is several components. Again, to repeat what one said, it's due by 5 o'clock on April 6th, 2023. Excuse me, I left 2022 in there. It's via submittable. So the form is available. The link can be found on the mass.gov page where you registered for this webinar. And the components of the submittable form are an eligibility screening, a cover page, a proposal narrative, a budget form, proof of current or imminent property ownership, and certification of application submission authorization. As I mentioned, the form is linked on mass.gov. It's also available on maeohed.submittable.com. So before you begin the application, if you haven't used Submittable before, some important notes here. It works best on Google Chrome, Firefox, or Safari. Don't use Internet Explorer as it's not supported. You'll need to create a free submittable account or sign in with a Google or Facebook credential to access the online application. You can save drafts of your work if you'd like to return to it at a later time. And you'll receive confirmation of your submission by email. Make sure to save list notification emails from Submittable and check the email that you use to sign up regularly, as we may message you through the Submittable platform or send emails that way if we need more information. The application of itself, we're going to give an overview of the application. We won't be going step by step through each question, but you can find the application template in the RFP on page 8 or in Submittable, as I just mentioned. If you have questions about how to use your Submittable account, do check out Submittable customer support. It's really helpful. They have videos that will guide you through using a lot of their features. It's submittable.com/help. All right, so first we're going to walk through this eligibility screen, and we are going to go kind of question by question here because it does go to the eligibility criteria that are in the RFP. Once you create your account, once you log into this particular form, you'll need to complete the eligibility certification. So as we mentioned, this closes at the same time the application closes. You do need to meet all of the eligibility criteria in order to be able to apply or to begin the application. And we ask first what your organization's EIN is. You do need to be a Massachusetts nonprofit organization in good standing in order to apply. So you'll enter your EIN, and it does a check that's powered by Candid. It used to be GuideStar, that verifies that this is an IRS registered nonprofit organization. And then we ask if the organization has been continuously operating an employment social enterprise, which is, as one talked about, one of the eligibility criteria. And then we ask, is the applicant organization the current or imminent owner of the real estate to be purchased, renovated, repaired, or rehabilitated? And each of these are a yes, no toggle. Moving on, asking if the applicant is operating an employment social enterprise that targets individuals facing significant barriers to employment. You say yes, no. Does the applicant organization pay all social enterprise participants at least the Massachusetts minimum hourly wage and certify that they will continue to do so? Toggle yes, no. Does the applicant organization have experience delivering and plan to continue to provide the following services? I don't need to list those for you. You can read them. And then the last question here is, does the applicant organization, oh, we talked about that, excuse me. We have the question about the services. You check the box to certify that your answers are true and correct, and then you hit the next button. If your organization is not eligible based on that eligibility screen, you'll get a message that says, sorry, you're not eligible for this opportunity. If you are, you'll be brought to the cover page of the application. Highly recommend using the Manage Collaborators tool here. It's highlighted with a green arrow. You can work with other folks in your organization, or if you have other partners who are helping you prepare your application, you can use that Manage Collaborators feature to all work on the same application simultaneously. I strongly do not recommend sharing your login information with anyone, both for cybersecurity reasons, of course, you're not supposed to share your logins, but also because having multiple people working in the same application can actually prevent you from being able to submit it. So if you're using the collaboration tool, the submission should not be a problem. But if you're sharing logins, sometimes that can keep you from being able to actually submit the form on time. And of course, we'd hate for anyone to miss the deadline because of a problem like that. So use the collaboration tool. There's also tutorials on the help page if you need some guidance about how to do that. So in the application, we do have a required field that says that you upload proof of current ownership or evidence of imminent real estate acquisition for the address listed above. So this is the property to either be purchased or renovated for the social enterprise. As you can see, there's a wider range of acceptable file types. Recommend PDF, but if you have other documentation, you can do that. You can attach up to 2 files in this section as proof of ownership. So that could be a mortgage payment, an offer to purchase real estate, whatever documentation, a deed if you have it, whatever documentation that you have of that ownership will go there. Okay, the budget form, perhaps the most important component here. Here in the budget form, this is a Excel sheet that you're going to download off of the mass.gov page. And you're going to fill it in with your budget information. You can add lines as needed, and they're going to upload it into the submittable application. So you're going to fill this in. There's separate sections for facility acquisition, facility renovation, rehabilitation, or repair. You're going to enter the description of what you are hoping to purchase or hoping to undergo, then put the amount that you're requesting from the grant, the amount of other or match funds that you have available, the total project budget will total from those two, and the source of other funds. So you'll have the opportunity to complete this and upload it into the submittable form. You can add lines, as I said, if you need to, just make sure that everything continues to total at the bottom here. And please, be as specific as you can when describing what each line item entails. Match funds are not required, but proposals that include funding support from other non-state sources will get priority consideration. All right, so here's where you'll upload the budget form. We have the instructions in the submittable form, just as I read them to you just now. You're going to download it, the budget form, complete it. You're going to save it using the naming convention, which is your organization name, the project city, and the grant request amount. And then you're going to upload the completed form into submittable. Okay, this is the certification form. You're just going to check that box to the left here, certifying that you're authorized to submit this application under the pains and penalties of perjury. The responses are true, accurate, and complete. So you'll enter your name or whoever is submitting that application, their name, organization name, and the date, and then you will be able to hit submit. So that is the end of the highlight reel for our application. We've made record time. This is great. We are going to address some of these frequently asked questions that come up, and then we'll address some of the questions from the Q&A. So if you do have questions, please put them in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, and we will address them as time allows. Again, if you have a very specific question that you think only pertains to your organization or your project, the best course of action is to email eohedgrants@mass.gov, and we can respond to you there. All right, first up, my organization is a for-profit business that employs many people. Can we apply to this program? This program is intended only for nonprofit organizations. So if the social enterprise is not a nonprofit, you would not be eligible. Next, our nonprofit is under contract to purchase a piece of real estate for the social enterprise. Can we apply for grant funds to renovate that property? Yes. You can be under contract with imminent ownership, and I think we had a question about this. We asked folks to demonstrate imminent ownership of the property, so being under contract is certainly sufficient for that purpose. And the funds can be to purchase, to renovate, repair, or rehabilitate any piece of real estate. Next question is, my organization doesn't directly employ people, but we do help local employers, for example, through a small business support program. Are we eligible for this program? No. Under this program's eligibility rules, the social enterprise itself does have to be an employer. Employees can be full or part-time, but they can't be contractors. They need to be actual employees of the social enterprise. And finally, my nonprofit leases our space. Can we request grant funds for renovations? So the eligibility requirements for this program are that the property is either currently or imminently owned by the nonprofit organization in order to be eligible. So organizations that lease their space are not eligible for this program. All right, thank you. And I see you are fast and furiously submitting your questions here. First up, if a nonprofit was awarded a grant for 22-23, are they eligible for 23-24? Yes, you are eligible to apply again. We welcome your application. Thank you for that great question. So a few questions here about documentation for proof of imminent purchase. I will start to answer this and then I will defer to Juan to see if he has more to add to this. But I think we have some flexibility here, but certainly like being under contract to purchase a piece of real estate would be the strongest evidence of an imminent purchase. Juan, do you have anything to add to that?
Sure. I think Allie's correct. It is a competitive grant program. So at the time of application, we do understand you may not have the property in hand. And so what we do ask, the question is, how do we define imminent? I mean, the extent to which you have a purchase and sales in hand, or you have some type of agreement, if you have a closing date, let's say, that's certainly going to be much more advanced at the time of application. There is an expectation, however, right, if you were to be awarded, that you're going to be able to close on that property. It is a cost reimbursement program at the end of the day, and so you won't be able to draw down any funds if it remains in agreement for the whole year. So only, for the purposes of evaluating the project, we're evaluating your social enterprise, and then the evidence would be if you potentially identified a property, have it under some agreement, we will take that as evidence that we will own the property. But if awarded, there's an expectation that you will in fact own the property at the time you want to draw down funds.
Thanks, Juan. Okay. A question about how many applications were received last year and how many awards were made. We made 9 awards last year, which are a bit more than we had anticipated, but there was additional funding available. And I believe we received 12 applications. Thank you for that question. Will EOHED be continuing this grant program every year? One, I'll defer to you on that one.
Sure. So I think, like many of our programs, all of these, these programs at the state level are subject to appropriation in any given year. This is a capital grant program, and so it is in the capital budget. And the capital budget for the state, has a 5-year forecast. And so, it is built into the capital budget, and we do anticipate that we'll be able to run it. But each year, it is subject to, legislative and the governor kind of finalizing and agreeing on the capital budget for any given year. So we certainly do anticipate that it will be in for, annually, but do have to say it's subject to appropriation each year.
Thank you, Juan. There's a question about the minimum number of people required to serve with employment. No, there's not a minimum number of people. I would just remind folks it is a competitive grant program. We do ask how many people that you currently employ and how many, if you anticipate that this capital project would allow you to employ more people. The most competitive projects are going to be able to show sort of a good return on the number of people employed for the amount of dollars you're requesting. So you would want to be able to show that there is that this funding would allow you to expand the services that you can provide ideally. But no minimum number of people are required to be served. Okay. Question about folks using these funds to acquire the property. I think we mostly answered that. Yes, this grant can be used to acquire a property, but you need to, the most competitive applications will be able to show that they are pretty far along in the process of acquiring that property.
Yeah, I would add, I think on that point, the answer is yeah, technically yes. If you don't have a building now and you want to apply for funding to purchase the building that's eligible, the emphasis of the evaluation of the application is going to be on the social enterprise itself and the extent to which you meet all those requirements. But to Ali's point, there are going to be applications, right? So we don't know who's going to apply, but there's going to be applications where they're going to demonstrate that already identified the building, already have a purchase and sales in hand. That application is going to be more competitive than if you haven't identified the building yet. So technically, yes, you can apply, but be mindful that not having the building identified is going to not make the application a little bit less competitive.
Thanks, Juan. There's a question whether the folks that are employed by the social enterprise need to be graduates of a workforce training program offered by the enterprise, or does the enterprise only have to have an emphasis on employing people who face barriers to employment? That's a great question. I think that there isn't a requirement that the people employed are graduates of a workforce training program per se, but there is an emphasis on their employment being part of an effort to develop the employee's skills in order to have them have better career options or better workforce skills. So I think simply employing folks without an emphasis on sort of developing skills is sort of the difference we see here between a social enterprise and just a regular employer.
Yeah, Ali, I could tackle the question about Section 3 and Davis-Bacon.
Please do, thank you.
Yeah. The question is that are projects required to address Section 3 or pay Davis-Bacon wages for rehab work? I think what we would say here is this grant program, and HED in particular, does not impose any specific rules or regulations above what you would normally be subject to. So I would say you would need to look to your institution, the type of organization you are, what rules do apply to you, whether it's, whether there are any procurement rules that you have to follow. Generally advice is, you would talk to your counsel, or if you work with somebody that's a procurement specialist. The AG's office also offers, there's I believe a hotline or a place you can call to get some guidance on this. But HED, our expectation is when you sign a contract is you will follow any applicable rules and regulations, meaning whatever applies to you and your organization. The grant program itself doesn't impose anything above and beyond that. So if you are subject to those Davis-Bacon rules as a matter of course, then we would expect you to follow that.
Great, thank you, Juan. We have a question about the distinction between industrial equipment and standalone equipment. This is a great question. So when we specify industrial equipment, we're talking about equipment that is installed in a structure as a fixture. So that would be things like walk-in refrigerators, industrial washers and dryers, equipment that is installed in the property and not easily removed or taken away from the property. When we talk about standalone equipment, as many of you know, last year we did fund some standalone equipment, things like vehicles. I think would be a prime example of something that is no longer fundable under this program. So really focusing on eligible equipment being something that is physically installed in a structure, with, again, like walk-in refrigerators and commercial kitchens being some of the prime examples here.
I would add, Ali, I think to your point, you know, if you think of, if the social enterprise happens to be a catering business, and, you know, to Ali's example, you know, the purchase of those walk-in freezer, walk-in refrigerator, industrial stoves, things like that, that you need for the operations of the social enterprise would be the industrial equipment that we're referring to. The pots and pans and the microwave and the or the laptops to help people kind of follow orders, or the POS system, things like that are not. Those are, that's what we would consider standalone and small. Ultimately, these are capital purchases, so which we've defined as some, you know, single item of value, $5,000 or more with a useful life of more than a year, as a standard kind of definition. So to Ali's point, anything that's, you know, that if you're constructing or rehabbing the inside of a building, let's say you're gutting it out, anything that's going to be put in as a fixture into that property is the industrial equipment that we're referring to.
Great. All right. So I think that brings us to the end of our questions for today. If you do have additional questions specific to your program, feel free to submit them to eohedgrants@mass.gov. We'll be taking responses there and compiling them into an FAQ, as well as the responses that we received here today. Those will be online shortly, hopefully by the end of this week. We'll also post the recording of this video. So thank you for attending. We appreciate your interest in this grant program. And I'll turn it over to Mark.
Just to conclude, thank you very much for your participation. And we're very excited about being able to run this round again for the Social Enterprise Grant Program. We look forward to reading about your projects. Essentially, like I said, there are additional questions come in, we will aggregate those and post them on the website. But we thank you. We look forward to reading your applications. Have a great day.